So, what's up, everyone? We got Ken Joslin here with us. I was reading a little bit about Ken. Andrew hit me up last night that we got a podcast today. And I was like, with who? Ken. I was like, I didn't know who Ken was. So I looked him up, and I was like, from pastor to I don't know, doing a lot.
Yeah, we're doing a
I
lot,
feel
bro.
like there's a shorter list of what Ken's not doing than what he is doing.
Well, we
Is
wanted
that
to have
accurate, Ken?
Grow Stack Drive, and you were too busy that week. That was just coincidental. But and I love
Yeah.
those
What was that?
words,
Was that a
Grow Stack.
conference?
Say that one more time, guys.
Was that a conference? Or what was Grow
my
Stack
Create
Drive?
conference. Oh, so Grow Stack Drive is
Yeah,
my community that we do. We do coaching, consulting. We do several different things. We've got an online community, about 60, 70 entrepreneurs around the country. We do that. We do my annual Create conference in Atlanta. Ed Milet, John Maxwell, Jesse Itzler, a ton of amazing friends of mine. We do that every January. That's a 1-year event. So we do that, and then we do quarterly what we call Move the Needle events. We've got one coming up in July with my good friend Gary Brecka, who's co-owner of 10X Health Systems with Grant Cardone. Dr. Rob Kelly, #1 alcohol addiction doctor in the world, and my good friend Dr. T from Chicago. He's one of the top NLP doctors. We're going to do 4 quadrants of health for this day, and it's a 1-day online. We have like 50 people that we do in person, and then we run our GSD Elite Mastermind, which is a very high-level mastermind of very successful entrepreneurs who build businesses that they don't want to sell. And so it's a little twist when it comes to masterminds, and it's something I believe that God dropped in my heart. They can sell if they want to, but they enjoy doing what they do so much that they don't want to sell. Like and it came out of a conversation with a friend of mine, and he was looking at GSD. He's like, dude, man, you can, in 3 years, you can probably sell this thing for $40 million. And I'm like, well, then what am I going to do? Like, I love doing what I'm doing. Why would I want to sell it? Like, so it's an elite group of entrepreneurs, circle of entrepreneurs that build businesses that they don't want to sell. So we've got some really amazing people in that group. Some guys worth upwards into a couple $100 million.
What is that group called?
GSD Elite. So you can go to growstackdrive.com/elite and check that out.
Okay. And then you said Dr. T from.
Yeah, Dr. Alec Trivedi. Mm-hmm. Dr. Alec Trivedi, he's from Chicago. I mean, I assume that everybody knows who Dr. T is, but Dr. Alec Trivedi, he's a neuro guy out of Chicago that does a lot of NLP work, a lot of they call him Dr. Rewire. That's like all his stuff on social media, and all of his stuff on Facebook is Dr. Rewire.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
I was reading.
When did this concept come into your life, Ken? How long ago was that?
Which concept was that? Coaching and helping business leaders, or
when did you become a pastor? Like, talk to us about before you started doing all this.
Yeah, so the last 25 years, 30 years, I spent half of that in full-time vocational ministry, pastoring and planting churches, and the other half in real estate. And so there's been, like 5 or 6 years in ministry. I was a youth pastor, started youth ministry with about, a handful of kids, grew it to several hundred, was speaking on large stages around the country with guys like John Maxwell, guys like my mentor, Ron Luce, Jeannie Mayo, really some of the giants and heroes of the faith. Went from that into doing mortgages with one of my best friends, started my own mortgage company. We were one of the top brokers holding the wholesale side for SunTrust and Countrywide 4 years in a row. Back in the mid 2000s, when you were just, we were going as fast as we could go. Back when the housing market was really at its peak, obviously the housing market crashed in 2008. I already felt a sense to go back into full-time vocational ministry. I planted a church in 2009, and I started the process. Planted it in 2010 in August, and did that for about 6 years, and then went back into the real estate side.
So when the real estate market crashed, what happened in your life?
Oh, dude, I lost everything. I had 13, 14 houses. I lost $2.8 million. I think is what I had to file bankruptcy on. I went from making.
So you filed bankruptcy altogether?
Oh yeah, in 2008. Yeah, I think it went from doing about $600,000 or $700,000 a year to basically nothing in about a span of about 90 to 120 days when the market crashed. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was. I remember I opened.
So you were all in on real estate. 100% in on real estate.
Yeah, because all my income that I had from then was from my mortgage business, and then my rental properties that I had. Yeah, pretty much all in. And so, when that wave hit, that recession hit, what happened was obviously it started in the mortgage business, and then the different people who were renting houses from me, construction workers, single moms, all of those things. So as they slowly started to feel the squeeze, they stopped paying rent. Now you're looking at not just an income of few $10,000 a month, but you're looking at, dude, we're getting now. I'm not even covering my rents on 14 properties. That gets pretty expensive pretty quick.
So what'd you do with all those properties? Did they foreclose or short sell?
Oh, they took them. Yeah, they took them all. The bank took them all back. Oh yeah, and so really back in the day, I tell people all the time, if you had the money back in the day, if you had cash in 08, 09, and I have several friends that did. Maybe some of those properties I had $100,000 in, 120, 150. They sold for 30 and 40,000 bucks a piece.
Wow.
So I mean, oh, dude, insane. Like, and every time you have a market shift or a market change, it's such a misnomer, because really the people that have the money, that have the resources, that's why even in this past 2 or 3 years with what we went through in COVID, there's been a giant shift in wealth. The wealthier have gotten even more wealthy, and the people that are poor have gotten even poorer because of exactly what I explained. I mean, the wealthy they've got finances ready at their disposal to be able to invest and take advantages of good deals. My pastor friend and mentor always says, when opportunity knocks, it's too late to prepare. And if you're prepared, you're going to be able to take advantage of the opportunity when it knocks.
So
so how did that affect your life? You lost everything. Like, what's going through your mind?
Yeah,
Are you
devastated.
Freaked out?
Yeah, of course it is. I mean, dude, you're a man. I was married. I had 3 kids at the time. Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult process. And one of the things that I remember walking out of that experience, and I don't know that I've ever shared this on a podcast or anything, I always remember my grandfather. He worked at, I'm from Pontiac, Michigan. My dad, my uncles, everybody worked in, General Motors, Buick, Chrysler. They all worked for all the auto manufacturers. And I'll never forget, my grandfather always carried a couple $100 in his pocket. This was back in like 1978, 79. This is when $200, like, you go buy a car for $200. You can't do $200 now. Is like, okay, whatever. But back then it was a lot of money. And I remember watching my grandfather and having conversations with my mom later, that my grandfather went through the Great Depression. Like, he never financed anything. Like, even his house, like, he paid cash for everything that he did, because he went through that moment. So I went through that season of life going, you know what? I'm never going to be in this situation again. I'm never going to be dependent on somebody else. I am going to steward and handle my financial life in a very different way. And I have from that point forward. So you learn a lesson and you move on, dude. Life's tough.
So
did you have no reserves or anything? You were just leveraged to the gills?
Oh, dude, I had $250,000 in the bank. What are you talking about? I had a lot of money in the bank. But when you're nuts, 13, 14 grand, and then whatever your houses are, when you're talking about 14 houses, that stuff gets expensive quick. And so I watched all of my other friends, literally, I just watched their, the depletion of, 3, 4, 5, $500,000 in the bank. It doesn't last long when your your outgoes 20 to 25 grand a month. Dave Ramsey says have 10 months. I had a year and a half worth of expenses in the bank. But when the spigot gets cut off, I mean, literally on the end of September of 2007, I just opened an office in Columbus. I hired the number one originator with SunTrust. She was closing about 20 deals a month. I mean, that income alone would have made me about 400 grand a year just off of that office that I opened up. 2 months into opening the office, Fannie Mae changes the guidelines. They did away with all the expanded approvals, any credit scores under like 600. Like, you couldn't do any of My Community loans were completely gone. Well, that took about a third of our business away. Fast forward to January of 2008, January the 31st, they did the same thing. And so any loan you had in the pipeline that didn't close, they give you like a 24-hour window. February of 2008, I had 11 deals on my desk, 11 loans on my desk. I don't know how familiar you guys are. I think you guys do some mortgages. I had 11 deals on my desk. That would have been about 58 grand personally for me that month, not counting all my other LOs that worked for me. I had 11 deals on my desk. I closed 0 of them. I couldn't get any of them closed because the market had been so ravaged by depreciation, you know, properties that weren't appraised, foreclosures, and now they're selling for way lower. I mean, the property values dipped so drastically that none of the deals that I had, I mean, guys with 800 credit scores, I couldn't get them refinanced because the property values and the market had depreciated so much during that just 6-month time period that, I mean, that's when I knew the handwriting was on the wall. That January the 31st of 08 and February of 08 was when I went, oh, this is not good. Like this is going to be very, very ugly. Not just for me, but for anybody that's in builders, you know, real estate agents, mortgage people. I mean, this is going to be a very difficult time. And then eventually, obviously, America, because as the housing market goes, it's how our country usually goes. So,
Andrew, you got a question?
Can you hear me?
Usually I'm the quiet one sometimes, and Andrew's talking. It's like we're either yin or yang.
no, you're good, dude.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we got
Yeah.
you. Yeah, you're
Oh,
soft.
okay.
You're very, very soft.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, we're focusing on a lot of, history in the past. Like, for example, what did you learn? Or did you pay cash for your house now? Are you debt
No,
free?
heck no. I'm a Grant Cardone guy now. I'm going to rent it. I'm not putting.
So you went from
you know,
Ramsey to Cardone? That's
I
like
know,
going
right?
from
Well, and I still love.
Christianity to
Yeah.
Judaism.
No, I still love Dave and I love Grant. Obviously, they're on both sides of the spectrum on what you're supposed to do. But now, dude, I try to live a pretty modest life. And you know, for me now, I wrote a book that we released in October, hit #1 on the Amazon bestseller list. And it was out of a conversation that happened 20 years ago. And it was one of my mentors set me down and she said, Ken, do you want to be significant or do you want to be successful? Because they're two vastly different things. And I really, that started a 20-year journey of understanding what's being a significant leader looked like versus an individual who just chased success. And I was in the church. I was one of the top youth guys in the country, speaking on big stages, hosting my own conference every year with some of the top people in the world. And when she sat down and she had that conversation with me is when the journey started for me about significant leaders build others around them so they can win. Ultimately understanding my favorite Zig Ziglar quote that if I help enough people get what they want, eventually I'm going to get what I want. Where people who chase success, they use the people around them so they can get what they want. And so I think when you lean into and you really try to live a life of significance and you get used to that high of fulfillment because you're making an impact in other people's lives, the material things just don't really matter as much as they once did.
Are you still married?
No, I'm not.
No, not married.
Did that trigger the divorce?
It wasn't because of the crash, was it?
No, it didn't. No, it didn't have anything to do with that. No, 27 years. We ended a marriage about a year or two ago after 27 years.
So you went through the mortgage crisis, you got divorced, and you still fought through all of it.
Yeah. What are the
That's
options?
pretty cool.
What are the options?
Well,
I mean,
a lot of people quit. A lot of people
I
quit.
get it, dude. Yeah, I get it. I don't know. I tell people all the time, sometimes I just don't know that I'm smart enough to quit. And, you know, in this journey over the past couple of years of starting GSD, I'm down 75 pounds. I've lost a lot of weight. I've really taken back my health. You know, in this journey, I developed a concept called incremental, not monumental. Small daily disciplined decisions over time always equal monumental results. Success cannot escape you if you do the right things every single day. And I think the one thing that I've done for whatever reason, I don't know if it's discipline, I don't know if it's persistence, you can call it whatever you want to call it. I just don't quit, man. I say all the time, listen, don't let a bad hour become a bad morning or a bad afternoon or a bad day. If you have a bad day, don't let it become a bad week. If you have a bad week, don't let it become a bad month, and on and on. Like literally, that's why one of the main things I teach on is mindset. Like I talk about limiting beliefs like fear, insecurity, scarcity, comparison, shame, and success. Like what are those limiting beliefs? How do I identify them? How do I remove them? How do I get over the fact that I grew up, I went to 12 schools in 12 years. Parents got divorced when I was 8. From the time I was in sixth grade to my senior year of high school, my mom sent me to live with my dad from Atlanta to Detroit 6 different times. Like, how do you overcome your mom calling you when you're in middle school and she co-signed for a piece of property on the lake that she owned with another attorney in her office, and they just flew the coop and she had to file bankruptcy on everything. Like, I never grew up with anything, so I didn't really know, what that looked like. So like scarcity mindset, like, dude, so scarcity mindset, people do 2 things. They either spend everything they have or they save everything they have. Like, there's no middle ground. They either spend it all because they're not expecting anymore, or they save it all because they're not expecting anymore. And that mindset keeps you from really walking in what God has for you, and really the best of the plan and the purpose He has for your life.
All right.
What was the first thing you did in the mortgage crisis when everything went down?
I let my best friend borrow $600 to pay his electric bill because I worked for him for several years. I had to literally give him $600 because he had tapped out. When I got that phone call, that was like in that February of 2008. When I got that phone call from him, I'm like, dang, this is going to get ugly quick. Like, you knew it was. The handwriting was on the wall, man. And then just going, okay, what's next? Let me tell you what's funny is, I'll tell you how God works, being a man of faith, a person of faith. I opened my office in Columbus in it was July the 4th weekend of 2007. I hired Kim. Again, she was closing 20 deals a month on her own. She was the number one originator on the wholesale side for SunTrust in the Southeast. 20 deals a month on her own. When I opened that office, we did a huge Chamber of Commerce ribbon cutting. We had like 125 agents come in, catered lunch, music outside. Huge deal when I opened that office. Everybody went home that day. I sat at my desk and I just started to cry. And I knew, I'm like, God, this is not what you have for me. Like, I already felt God drawing me back in to go back into full-time ministry. And this was 3 months before anybody had any idea anything was coming. So for me, being a person of faith, that's probably the bedrock that kept me moving on and not wanting to give up.
Yeah. I mean, that's cool. You gotta have spirituality in your life. How do you separate business with religion? Because I mean, that could be like a slippery slope, can it?
Yeah, well, I'm not religious. Religion's man-made. Religion normally is a set of rules, a set of, if you check this box, and this box, you and God are okay. I posted on my Instagram story last week, and I used to say this almost every Sunday when I pastored, that God's love for you isn't predicated on your performance. He loves you because He created you. He loves you because you're a son or daughter. He doesn't love you for what you do for Him. Boy, and I got some religious people a little stirred up on my next statement. I said at my best in ministry, and at my best, 5 days after the earthquake in Haiti, I called a really good friend of mine, David Pollock, who's the co-host of ESPN's College Game Day. I called Davey on the phone. I said, dude, me and Philip and a couple other pastors are going to Haiti to help for this earthquake to do some relief work. Davey said, here's my American Express card. Whatever you need to do it. Let me know if there's anything else you need. So we went down to Haiti. 5 days after the earthquake, they were still stacking dead bodies on the side of the road. And we did relief work for 7 nights. I slept in a rocking chair 7 nights in a row because nobody would sleep inside because they were afraid they were going to have aftershocks or another earthquake and more buildings were going to collapse. And I went down there and we worked for 7 days. I'm talking about work so you're so tired. I was taking a bath with a 5-gallon bucket of cool water, and I would take a bath in the courtyard of that woman's house. That's how we got clean. And then we would eat. We brought a bunch of MREs with us because we didn't know how plentiful the food was. And we delivered food, rice, beans, and supplies to all these different orphanages in Carrefour and around Port-au-Prince. This is what I tell people all the time. God didn't love me any more that day or any less than He did the guy who just beat his wife the night before. He loves that guy that beat his wife just as much as He did me, because He didn't love me for what I did for Him. He loved me because He created me. And so when we talk about religion, I'm like, ugh, religion makes me cringe. Being a Christ follower and the gospel, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, the first 4 books of the New Testament, they literally mean the good news, because God's good news and His love for you. And the good news is His love for you is not predicated on your performance. That's what draws you. Religion says, if I act right, God will love me. The gospel says, when I understand how much God loves me, I'm going to want to act right. It changes my behavior. It doesn't cause my behavior, therefore God loves me. It's a complete reversal. One is heavy and weighty, and one is free. That's why Jesus said, I got goosebumps. Well, look at that. I got my preaching goosebumps on me this morning.
Wait, so you
Man,
slept in a rocking chair? Can you hear me? You guys can hear me? You slept
Yeah,
in a
yeah,
rock
yeah,
close to the
yeah.
ground?
For 7 nights, bro. And I tell you, this is the crazy fact. Like, I'm super OCD, super
Yeah.
OCD. Like, somebody was making fun of all my shoes in my box. I have like 25 pair of Nike Airs in my closet. They're all in boxes, all my coat hangers. I don't know if it's my military background being in the Air Force. All my coat hangers are hung perfectly spaced. I used to use a new towel every time I took a shower, and I 2 to 3 showers a day. So every time I'm using a new towel. When I got back from Haiti, that's been 10 years ago. Dude, I use the same towel. I use the same towel now for like 3 days. I'm like, and I know that's a crazy, but it was just one of those things I learned being down there. And you were talking about getting up in the middle of the night and having to spray off back on you so the mosquitoes didn't pick you up and carry you away at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning. That's not comfortable sleeping but that's what we did. And but my whole point in that is people would go, man, Ken, you love God. Man, you were serving God. He must really love you. He does really love me, but he doesn't love me any more than the guy who beat his wife the night before. He loves him just as much as he does me because he died for him the same as he did for me. That's the difference between religion and Christianity and the gospel, which is good news.
being you went to Haiti, that was a terrible thing that happened. What was the happy moment of like when you were there and you like looked around, you're like, man,
Yeah.
you know, in times of terror, this is like the reason I'm here, or you see people coming together. Like, what was that like?
Yeah, there was 2 moments that stand out in my mind being in Haiti. One, we had one of the guys that we went with was friends of a pastor friend of mine who actually passed away last year. He was a friend of Howard's. He was dual citizen, so he was Haitian and he was a U.S. citizen. He was from New York. His mom was from Haiti. We stayed at her house in her compound there in Port-au-Prince, and we were out one day. Was in the Air Force. Both of my older brothers were in the Air Force. Howard was in the Marine Corps. His buddy was in the Marine Corps. So so the airport was closed in Port-au-Prince. We had to fly into San Domingo in the Dominican Republic and take an 11 or 12-hour bus ride to get where we were going. It was miserable. So we get to the airport and we're standing there, and here we are, these 3 American kind of missionary guys, and I'm talking to who's arming the gate, 2 Air Force SPs. So I introduced myself, showing my ID. Here's why I'm here. Here's my time. I served Howard, and I don't remember the other guy's name, the dual citizenship guys. And they let us actually come onto the flight line. And the flight line was lined with thousands of pallets. And it was MREs, 50-pound bags of rice and beans. And we told them why we were there. And we used Twitter because the phone service was mostly down then. We used Twitter to coordinate all the different orphanages that needed supplies. And we would take supplies. And I'll never forget, they actually gave us a couple of the boxes they gave us were actually body bags. And I'll never forget, we were going through Carrefour, and it was almost hard to even. I can imagine it. I'm like, dang, like you would have on one side of the street a 5-story building that was collapsed with bodies stacked in front of the street, and then on the other side there'd be a bakery that was wide open, and people were going in and out, having coffee and eating bagels, like nothing was going on. And I'll never forget, we were trying to get to an area where it was called Notre Dame Orphanage. We're trying to get there, and we couldn't get there, and we got blocked because when a couple of the buildings had collapsed, it literally blocked the road. There were big stones in the road. We got out, we moved the stones, people were helping us, and there was a young kid who was there. We had met him at the airport and saw him again. He was there, and he was going to his family home, and he asked us, because he knew his mom had already told him they had lost a couple family members. He asked us for 3 body bags. And I'll never forget going in the back of the truck and handing him. And I'll never forget him and his brother, I think, or sister. They had T-shirts that they had made in New York before they came that had a picture of the 3 people they lost in their family. And I'll never forget handing him body bags so he could go to his house, dig his family members out, and he had a body bag to be able to put them in so they could do a funeral for him. The second one was we're out a little bit more remote area outside the city, and we're working with a bunch of kids, and we're doing the rice and the beans. And this was one of the orphanages, and seeing the joy on 5 and 6-year-old kids' faces, no shoes, half clothed, And just the joy in their faces. They're 5, 6 years old. They don't know what an iPhone is. They're not looking for their iPad. They're not wanting to play, whatever the latest game is on your phone. They're full of joy. They have no idea what's going on in the world around them. We're probably two of the most, now I haven't thought about this in a long, long time, but probably we're two of the most like aha moments and like, wow, the dichotomy between the two moments, giving a guy 3 body bags to go get his family out of his home and the handing kids. We had Nutri-Grain bars. I'll never forget one time we had Nutri-Grain bars. They were in a bag, and one of the guys held the bag over. And it was just like in like a Walmart Target bag, and they tore the bag, and the Nutri-Grain bars went all over. And immediately we're flooded with like 200 or 300 people who hadn't had any food. And literally we had an armed escort in our truck, so we didn't worry about somebody coming and trying to take our stuff from us. And I'll never forget being just mobbed by hundreds of people, like teenagers. They're throwing kids out of the way, and we're like, there's nothing we could do but to leave and just leave. I don't know. It's a big bag, probably a couple hundred Nutri-Grain bars in there. But I'll never forget handing those kids Nutri-Grain bars, and they were just elated to be able to get something like that. Probably not the way you thought this podcast was going to go today.
That's mind blowing. Painted that picture. That's an experience. That's
Mm-hmm.
When was that? 2010?
Yeah, 2010. Mm-hmm. I think it was in February, if I'm not mistaken. I think this February was the 11-year anniversary or 12-year anniversary.
So you filed bankruptcy. You went over there. You were broke. So what principles did you put in place after all that went down afterwards? So you would never,
Yeah, and maybe the Haiti thing helped me have some perspective on, it helped me have even a greater perspective when it comes to significance. Like stuff just doesn't really mean that much to me. It just doesn't mean that much to me. I mean, I just bought a new car this week, but I've been driving around a Honda Civic forever. I mean, it just doesn't mean that. I don't care. Like, I just don't have there's nothing monetary that like draws me. There's not a house I go, oh, I want to live there, or I want a plane, or I want a boat, or I want a second. None of that stuff doesn't move the needle for me.
The impact that I want to be significant over successful, that has a lot of significance to you. But you're also mentioning a lot of people who focus on success, right? So how do you, yeah, I mean,
yeah, I think Andrew, to answer your question, I think the easy part is, dude, listen, I love Grant. I was going to do a podcast with a girl. She's a big Instagrammer, a couple million followers. She DM'd me like the day before, and she goes, oh, hey, listen, I can't do the podcast with you because you're a Grant Cardone licensee and you like Grant. And I said, well, why not? Like, there's things Grant does that I don't like. Like, I'm not crazy about everything he does. Like, there are things that I'm like, I would never do that. Like, I would never. It goes against my character and my I would never do that. But that doesn't mean I don't want to help people. Why would we not get together and help people? Eat the fish and spit out the bones. Like, I'm sure there are people in my community that don't agree with everything I do. That's fine. Take the nuggets and the good things that you can take from me and put them in your tool belt and move forward. And some people are just different. That's me. And if you want to go buy a jet, and Grant just went from a Gulfstream 650 to a 750 or whatever, 550 to 6, whatever his jump was, dude, go buy a jet. I don't care. That's between you and God. It's not my business. It's absolutely got nothing to do with me. And in our culture in America today, we could use a whole lot less judging and judgment and a whole lot less, hey, this let me take care of me. Like, I talk a lot about, when I talk about comparison being one of those 6 limiting beliefs, comparison is a killer, because comparison does 2 things. And there's a flip side to the coin of comparison, and they're both devastating. Number one, you look at guys like Tony Robbins, Grant Cardone, somebody in my field, Dean Graziosi, Brendan Bouchard. I'm actually reading Brendan's book right now, High Performance Habits. You look at somebody like that, you go, oh, dude, I'm never going to get there. God, those guys they're so much better than I am. And so what happens is you get a false sense of what you're doing. Like, you're like, I don't measure up. I'm just not good enough. I'm never going to get there. Or on the flip side of that coin, and this is where a lot of us get in danger, is we look at people that are in the same field that we're in, but they're not as far down the road as we are. And we go, oh, I got it made. I've arrived. I'm better than so-and-so is. When the reality of it is the only person you need to compare yourself with is the guy you brush your teeth with in the mirror every morning. Like he's your competition. There's no such thing as competition, unless you're out on the basketball court, which I love to play. Like, but I am my own competition. Like I am my comparison. I don't have time to judge everything Grant does. I don't have time to judge everything. Well, Sharon Lecter, she's a mentor and a friend who co-authored Rich Dad Poor Dad. She's like of Jesus in woman form, but I don't know if she does anything wrong. But any of those people, like I don't have time to look at your life, Andrew or Joshua, and go, oh, I don't like what Joshua does. Oh, I don't like what Andrew does. Like it's not my job. Like I'm too busy writing my goals down and doing my gratitude and affirmations and going, okay, let me read Happy Days by Gabby Bernstein and let me figure out why I act and still react in some of the ways I do because some of the childhood stuff I went through. Like I'm working to become the best version of me. I'm not trying to make you the best version of you. And if I can be an example and I can help you do what you want to do and you can look and go, you know what? I love how Ken does this. I love his authenticity. You know what? I can take this nugget of comparison and I can apply that to my life. It's going to make me a better human being and I'm going to be able to make a better impact. That is significance.
So do you have a goal for significance? Billion people, feed it. I think Tony Robbins feed it, right? So I can see that significance. Do you have a goal for that?
Yeah. Our goal is to help every business leader in America build confidence, gain clarity, and create community. Those three things, I think, are the three things that if you can get in alignment in your life as a business leader, you don't even have to own your business. You can be a W-2 employee working for Coca-Cola or teaching or driving a trash truck. I don't care what you do. But if you can build your confidence, and that comes by setting a daily rhythm, like finding your rhythm. Your rhythm may not be my rhythm. You don't have to adopt everything I do. Like, excuse me, it's your rhythm. I was up at 4:15 this morning, getting ready for the gym, pre-workout in the refrigerator, clothes laid out in my chair in my sitting area. Like I'm ready to roll. My planner sitting here waiting on me with my Mont Blanc ready to write. Like I'm ready to roll. My book's sitting here. I have a rhythm, but you may want to sleep till 9 and you may stay up till 4 a.m. and work. I can't do that, but you got to find your rhythm. So that's how you build confidence. Clarity. Like what does it look like to get clarity? Sharon Lecter said one of the most amazing things I heard about a year and a half ago at an event that I was at. She said, you don't need magic, you need motion. You don't need magic, you need motion. Just get moving. And Grant talks about it all the time. Get in action. Take massive action. Just get moving. There's so many people, they're terrified to move because they don't think they can do it. They struggle with limiting beliefs. When I did my Create conference this year, before I had actually, John Maxwell. I mean, if you're going to let somebody like knock you out of the opening spot in your own conference, why not let it be John Maxwell, right? So I let John speak and I spoke after John. And I had David Pollock come up. Davey came up and did a little bit of story. We raised some money from David for David and Lindsay's charity. And I got up and the first thing I wanted people to do was, did you see this? And you're like blown away at what we're doing. But let me tell you about the nights at 2 a.m. I woke up going, can we really pull this off? Do I really have what it takes to put this thing together? Like I want people to know that, hey, this seems sexy. It seems awesome. I've got a live band. My lead guitar and lead singer just got through touring with Reba last week. Like it's phenomenal. It is next level. But let me tell you what, there were nights I didn't know if I could pull it off. But you know what I didn't do? Right. I didn't quit. I kept going. So clarity is there. Get in motion and then confidence. How do you build community? How do you put the right people in your life? The relationships are key.
So how many years
what are you working on right now to get better at?
Oh, one question. Let me get Andrew's question first. What'd you say, Andrew?
How long?
Say that one more time.
How long have you been doing the event, Grow Stack Drive?
We started about 2 years ago. I've done 5 events over the past 15 months. The first one I did in October of 2020 in Nashville. 28 people showed up. Next one I did was in the end of January of 2021. I think we had 38 people show up to that event. Next one we did was in Scottsdale in June of 2021. I think we had 45 or 50 show up. The next one we did was in October at Brad Lee's space in Vegas. about the same, 40, 45 people showed up. And then I was like, oh, you know what? We're going to change this up. I'm going to focus all my effort on one massive event every single year, and I'm going to bring in the best of the best of the best. And so when I got ready to bring in John Maxwell, my best friend worked for John for years. So John's right-hand guy is Chad Johnson. He runs all of John's schedule now. Chad was my best friend Nate's intern when he first started working at Enjoy 20 plus years ago. So I'm on a FaceTime with Chad, and Chad gives me the figure, $85,000 to get John to come in to do a dinner, to do a 20-minute talk or 25-minute talk at dinner, and then do an hour. I think it was 90 minutes the next morning, $85,000. And I told Chad, I said, dude, I don't get the brother-in-law discount? Like, and he's laughing. He's like, bro, it's usually that's a 2-day rate because he stays overnight. It's usually 120. We give it to you for 85. I'm like, appreciate you, bro. And this is what I told him. I said, go ahead and write the contract up and send it to me. Got off the phone. I called Nate. I FaceTimed Nate. And I said, hey, bro, Chad said tell you hi. Nate goes, how much? I looked at him. I went, 85,000. And he looked at me and he just started laughing. And he goes, you're going to do it, aren't you? I said, you better damn believe I'm going to. He goes, how are you going to pay for it? I said, I have no freaking idea how I'm going to do it. But I already told Chad to send me the contract. So when you talk about getting in motion, a lot of people would get paralyzed right there. I didn't get paralyzed. What I did was say, send me the contract. I'm going to sign it. Because you know what happened when I signed that contract? I got to send John 85 grand. Like I've got to send him half that money before I can even say he's coming to, or $21,250 before I can even say he's coming to my conference. So guess what I did? It put my ass in motion where I had to get things done in order to make sure John came to my conference. So all of those behind the scene things, nobody sees. But when I got on my stage in my session that first day, I wanted entrepreneurs out there to know, hey, this is hard. This ain't easy. I just didn't freaking wave a magic wand and all of a sudden GSD existed or Create Conference existed. I worked my ass off. I had to overcome the same limiting beliefs that I teach people to overcome. I had to overcome them. And guess what? I still have to overcome them. Every new level you go to in your business or in your personal development, you're going to hit some of the same limiting beliefs you hit at the last level or 3 levels ago. And you're going to have to learn how to identify them, remove them, and replace them.
What was
Gotcha.
some of your biggest, what was some of your biggest, oh, God. All right.
Go ahead, Joshua.
All right, I have the ball now. You pass me the ball.
Go ahead.
I'm
I
gonna get
think
a layup.
you got it, homie. Just don't miss a layup. If you do, I won't
All right,
give it
cool.
to you.
I'm going back door. Ken's giving me a sweet bounce pass.
I can do
since
that.
He said he likes basketball.
Yes.
But 2 things. Like, where do you want people to be going now to connect with you? Like, is it the conference? Is it like a book that you got?
Just my Instagram page is great. My Instagram page is at Ken Joslin. Super easy. Our podcast, we just hit 2,000 downloads in the first month and a half. We finished in the top 100 of iTunes for new releases called As the Leader Grows. I just released a podcast yesterday. We release every Monday. I release a podcast for me. It's me just teaching. It's about 20 minutes. And I'll hit a subject like 2 keys to success. There's a lot of people that I see that want to be successful or significant / people understand because it's coming from me what I mean. People want to be successful, but I don't think people are inherently lazy. I don't think people have actually seen it up close. They haven't seen it personally, which is what? It's proximity. It's relationship. You've got to put yourself in relationship with people who have been successful or significant for you to be able to see how it's done. So that's number 1. Number 2, some people don't believe that they have what it takes to really pull it off. And that's mindset. So what do? We go right back to limiting beliefs. It's going to be one of those 6 that I talked about. So relationships and mindset. So last week, I think I spent 24 minutes talking about those 2 things. Last night, we just dropped a podcast with my real good friend, Master Jeff. He is Forbes Magazine's pinned him the Tony Robbins of Persia. Does huge events. He's from Iran. Does huge events in Iran and Malaysia and Dubai. We're actually working on an event right now with myself and him and Sadhguru for like November, December is when we're going to be doing something over there. So we're constantly dropping content. So podcast As the Leader Grows, and the Instagram at Ken Joslin.
Got it. And then second thing I was going to ask, you said that you've gone through struggles. People don't see the hard work. People just see the end result. Andrew and I were talking about it this morning a little bit. Do you feel like it's important to share your struggles with people, or do you feel like people look down on it
It's probably
negative
it's
thing.
probably the most important thing that I do because it makes it real. Gary Brecka, who is Grant Cardone's partner in 10X Health Systems, Gary's one of my dear friends. Were y'all at GrowthCon by any chance last week or 2 weeks ago? Were y'all in Miami? So Grant just did GrowthCon. Gary spoke on Friday. It's the only reason I was there. And so Gary, at my boot camp that I did, my smaller event I did in Vegas at Brad Lee's space, that Brad that does Dropping Bombs podcast is a good friend. And he said this, he said authenticity. He was talking about the different frequencies that we emit as human beings and talking about how they've actually measured the electromagnetic waves that come from our body. And he talked about the highest frequency that we emit as human beings is authenticity. And authenticity is when it's a combination of an understanding and knowledge of a subject and a belief that it actually works. When he said that day, I'm telling you, God spoke to me and he said, Ken, this is why my superpower is I am a connector. I love connecting people. It's what I do. And God said that day, he goes, this is why I've given you this gift. It's to be able to connect people like Brad, like my buddy Josh York, CEO of Gym Guys. Josh was on the stage with us that day. And guys like Gary Brecka with the people so that they can get help. So I think that authenticity, when you talk about sharing shortcomings and difficulties, dude, it is of the utmost importance because those shortcomings, people look at it and they go, oh, okay. Yeah, you're just like me. Like you're not any different than me.
All right. I'm passing the ball to Andrew now. Andrew, you got the ball. Hey, I like this. Pass the ball. Andrew, you got the ball now.
Can you guys hear me?
We got you, man. Yeah, we got you.
Okay. So, yeah, I mean, I linked with the wrong mic. But so what was your biggest limiting belief financially?
Probably scarcity. Probably a scarcity mindset. I would definitely say it's scarcity. Because when you grew up poor or you grew up, and you didn't have much. I just wrote in my journal today. I'm reading through this book, and one of the things that I remember as a kid, I was probably 10 years old. And I remember my mom showing me and my two sisters a check from my dad. This was probably like 1978 or 79. I was probably 10, 11 years old. It was a check from my dad for, I don't know if it was orthodontist or something. And I remember in the memo, this is where I learned the word superfluous. And it said superfluous funds. That's what it said. And mom showed us the check. And she goes, and she made us look the definition of superfluous up in the dictionary. It's back before you had phones, right? You had to literally get the dictionary out and look at the word.
In a what?
Do what now? Oh, a dictionary.
In a what, Ken? Did you say
dictionary.
A dictionary?
Yes, a dictionary. Like you had to literally look the word.
You literally got to open up the dictionary.
That's exactly right. She made us look the word up to see what the definition of superfluous meant. And I'll never forget that. Number one, every time I use the word superfluous or I hear it, it always takes me back to that moment when I was 10, 11 years old. And basically, it was her attempt at showing us, number one, scarcity. And then number two, a feeling of your father doesn't care enough about you guys to take care of you financially. And so having to, when you talk about what's the number one thing, it is that scarcity mindset. It is okay, can we do this? Can we take this to the next level? I shared with a friend of mine a couple of weeks ago. He goes, what is your goal this week or this year? I said, I want to make $1 million this year. I'm going to do $1 million. And he just leaned across the table and he goes, a month or a week? I said, no, I want to make $1 million this year. And he goes, a month or a week? And I just started laughing at him. I said, I knew where he was going, right? And I just laughed. I said, dude, Jeff, do me a favor. Let me catch up to $1 million a year and then I'll get to $1 million a month. Like, let me get my mindset there. But you know what I do? Every day, I've got 5 affirmations. My very first one right there, I have a millionaire mindset. I have a millionaire mindset. I flip my camera around every day. And I do this right here. I look at myself in my camera and I talk to myself every morning when I do my affirmations every single day. And the second one is I will live a life where my heart, head, and relationships are in alignment. My heart's where I dream. It's the factory where all of the vision is birthed. My head is my belief factory. And unfortunately, if those two things aren't in alignment and I've got limiting beliefs, what I believe is what I think. What I think is what I say. What I say is what I do. What I do dictates and determines my legacy and my future. And if I've got limiting beliefs, my vision will trip over my mindset every single day. And after it does that repeatedly, what happens is it erodes the hope in my heart. And I get to a point where I don't even believe when my heart goes, ooh, I want to do this. Ooh, I see this. Or God put something in there of, man, here's how you can make an impact and make the world better. You're like, I just don't think I can do that. And that's where a lot of people are at. That's what I love to do, is help business leaders build confidence, gain clarity, and create community.
Yeah. So final thoughts as we wrap things up here, Ken. You got any questions for us? You got any questions you want to ask us?
No, how'd you guys find me? How'd you find me? It's crazy. I've done like 5 podcasts.
It's funny. Before Andrew speaks, and I'm going to pass the ball to Andrew, but so I actually messaged Ken, and Ken actually, I don't know if Ken answered or someone else answered.
I always answer. That's always me.
Ken,
Nobody
I actually reached out to you to come on a 3-minute Zoom interview.
Oh, yeah.
Come on a 3-minute Zoom interview with me.
Yeah.
So, Andrew, that's how you found him, right? Instagram?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Was it somebody that we knew? Was it somebody that you knew that knew me?
Probably. Yeah. You're in Atlanta, right?
I'm in Birmingham, but I'm in Atlanta a lot.
Birmingham. Okay, that's in our region, right? So we're in Jacksonville. So I don't know how it popped up in the feeds. Groshback Drive in Atlanta, I believe. So we're in Jacksonville, Florida.
Yeah.
So we're that is what probably attracted me. Okay, he's somewhat local here.
Yeah.
But
we do our conference.
It might have
we do our conference every year in Alpharetta, in Atlanta.
Okay. Yeah. Do you know? Are you connected to Coach Burt? Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, I know Coach Burt real well. Yeah, of course I do.
It might have been through that circle.
Yeah. My first 2 events that I did were actually at Coach Burt's Lodge up in Nashville.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, Josh, you got to take over on this because my mic.
Yeah, Andrew's going through some difficulties.
No, you're good, bro.
But don't we all? According to Ken, everyone goes through difficulties.
Dude, everybody.
Everyone goes through difficulties, yet it sounds like it's how you respond when there's darkness.
Can you hear
Gets
me?
you to
we got
the brightest. You sound like my grandmother. You sound like my grandma. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
I chalk this one up as more of a listening one than talking one because I for some reason I linked my computer instead of
maybe that's a good idea. Maybe like one of us should just listen and the other should talk and then we can pass it back.
I was going to call Ken afterwards and I got all my questions balled up, but I was like, this is going to be a listening one for me. That's where I was at. So
you had questions before we hopped on here?
Exactly.
No,
I prepared 0 questions, Ken.
I don't ever have.
I hope
questions.
you know that.
I don't ever have questions. I get on, man. We have a conversation.
I just like to talk.
Yeah.
I like it to be organic. But Ken, I look forward to seeing you in person.
Most definitely, guys. Thank you very much.
I'm glad that you shared some things people would view as painful and wouldn't want to admit, but you just tell it how it is.
Yeah.
Share the struggle, and I mean, shit. If you can do it, anyone can do it, right?
Exactly. That is it, bro. If I can do it,
and I don't mean that as a negative thing. I mean that you're doing it as an example. You're like, hey, if I can get through this, I can get through this, I can get through this. So can you. And I really feel like that's what your message is to make people get out of those limiting beliefs and show them that you may be the one speaking on stage today, but there may be a day Ken's sitting in the crowd and then Andrew's speaking on stage.
Yeah. Most definitely, guys.
So thanks for hopping on. Really value your time.
You're welcome, my friend.
And your mindset. And we look forward to chatting again soon.
Thanks, Ken.